Hey, Stop Doing Nothing fans, it's Patrick Allmond, and it is our weekly live stream. Weekly as in sometimes I skip a week and sometimes I don't skip a week. Today is Thursday. I think we're down with December, I can't remember where we are, December 9th, 10th, or 11th, someplace here in the middle of December. It's, as you can see, it's Oklahoma, and it's cold, and all the grass is dead. So we are here deep into winter. Fortunately, there's not any snow or ice on the ground yet, but it's definitely chilly. I was going out to do the live stream, and I had to definitely get a coat on. Hey, thanks for those of you tuning in right there. I really do appreciate it. And please do me a favor and drop some hearts and share the stream to help me get up some viewership and drop some likes here. It's been a couple of weeks because I got pretty busy, but what's kind of cool about that is I've also had some people private messaging me some questions, because that's the best. Those are where I get my best ideas, or for when you guys send me questions about, life, business, relationships, success, things like that. But what I need from you in return is to help me spread the fan page, help me share the content out there. This question came to me via private message, and I think it's been a couple of weeks ago. And the question to me was, sorry if you hear a dog every now and then. My neighbors have a dog over there, and they are very unhappy with me outside talking. The question came to me, and it was basically about, what happens when you have big, giant, lofty dreams and you have things you want to go out there and accomplish your world, whether it's doing a video show like this or a podcast, or you want to build your own business, and your spouse isn't down with it. And just so you know, for some people, oftentimes I may do a question that comes from me personally or a question from the outside. This is definitely one from the outside. This is not something I have a problem with at all personally. I've done very well a couple decades running my own business, and so spousal support has never been an issue for me. But I did have someone message this to me. And so I thought about this for a little bit, and here's what I came up. First of all, anybody who's started their own business or started a podcast or a video show or done anything like that knows that around you, the people around you oftentimes kind of determine your mood and determine your success level. Oftentimes I'll talk about internal motivation, about how to make yourself happy, about how to basically self-motivate or get things done. Because sometimes, you can't rely on other people to motivate. If you're in an office by yourself, your job is to self-motivate to get something done. But at the end of the day, in the evening, when you're paying the bills, when you're going out, or when you're doing someone, you realize that life is more fulfilling when you have people around you that support what you're doing. And a key person in your life is going to be your spouse. So hopefully when you started off on a venture of independence, leaving the corporate grind of the 9 to 5, hopefully what you did is you had your spousal support system in place. You talked it over with your spouse. You said, I want to do this. I want to do this. How is it going to work? Yeah, exactly, Paul, thanks. You basically had a plan of attack ahead of time. And I remember when I actually did start my own business in the end of 1998, we did have that discussion. We had that discussion. How's this going to work out? How much money do we have to make? How is travel going to work? And I'm going to tell you right now, we definitely did not have all the answers, but there were some things to discuss. And then on D-Day, I think, which was October 1st or November 1st in 1998, we kicked off things, and here I am X number of years later in 2017. So somehow I did some things right, and we managed to muddle our way through it. But what happens when you don't have that support system in place? What happens when your significant other or your spouse or your or your partner or your life partner, whoever it is, doesn't support what you do? Well, first of all, there's a couple things. The first one I talked about was just discussing it with them ahead of time. That's going to really save a lot of stress, to plan that out before you make that big leap. Doing it afterwards, it's kind of too late, and all of a sudden you're in fight mode. So as much as possible, think about discussing with them ahead of time before you make any major life decisions. When you enter into a relationship like that, the two become one, and everything you do affects them, and everything they do affects you. Now let's say, for example, it's too late. You've made that leap, and all of a sudden you're having support issues. Someone's not agreeing with your long hours, or they don't like the fact that you're working on the weekends, or maybe they're really concerned because the money isn't coming in, or even worse, they're watching what you're doing and they're saying, man, you are wasting your time, you are wasting your life. Why are you doing that? Why would somebody ever pay for that? It seems like a complete waste of time. The human spirit can only take so much berating and so much pushing down and depressing talk and negative talk from the outside before it's going to crack. It's going to happen. So your options in those particular cases, and sometimes the options aren't necessarily good, your options are to have that discussion after the fact when you're already in fight or flight mode, let's say, and hopefully you can come to some means or some discussion, or maybe you can show them examples of other people or other spouses or other couples who have basically had issues like this and found ways to work through them. Maybe you can find another entrepreneur friend and have your spouse talk to their spouse. This isn't always guys being the entrepreneur and the wife being the one berating him. It could be the other way around too. Find other people who have had the same challenges like that in a spousal relationship and have them talk to the other spouse to see what happened. How'd you deal with this? Was it stressful in your marriage? Did things almost end? How'd you work out the issues? How'd you work out what's going on with the kids? How'd you work out what's going on with who drives who where and the time management and the money management? So see if you get another person involved. If you can't handle it yourself one-on-one, see if you can get another person involved in that discussion and basically get an outside perspective. Because oftentimes, couples, we are around each other so much that we basically, we headbutt each other. We have legacy arguments and legacy fights and legacy issues, and we're not the least bit interested in listening to each other because we already know that we've been with somebody for 30 years and they're full of crap. And so we have a hard time listening with open ears. And the other option is, in addition to basically building an outside support system, to, you can give up your dream or you can give up the relationship. And I know that sounds kind of depressing, but if your dream is so strong and your dream is so big and you know it's something you're going to do and it's deep down in your soul, then it's something you're going to do. And you're going to have to find a way to either work with your spouse, make it successful faster, or, the worst case scenario is to get rid of that relationship. And that's not something I'm ever advocating, but if you're in a fight nonstop with your spouse over running a business or over starting a new venture, or over making money, something has to give. You cannot live in a hostile relationship like that. And so that obviously is the very, very last resort. And I am never, ever encouraging that. But and you know what, I guess the other option, because everything is obviously a choice, something else you can also do is give up the venture. If you started your own business, where you can say, you know what, maybe I have to shelve this idea for a while, maybe put things in place to where my spouse will understand and respect and be on board next time. Maybe I have to postpone this year or a couple of months or whatever, reset everything, make sure that my spouse is on board, and then I try it again. Or obviously, like I said, the other one is just I'm not going to say get rid of the spouse, but to obviously dissolve the relationship. So again, you have several options here. One is obviously the pre-planning ahead of time to make sure that they're on board before you ever jump out in the venture, and that is obviously the best thing you should do. And if you're somebody who also gives entrepreneur advice, because I know some of you on board here watching do, make sure you always push that for someone who's considering leaving a job to going into business for themselves. Talk it over with your spouse first. That is a non-option. That should be in marital vows. That should be in pre-marriage counseling. Hey, are either one of you thinking of starting a business at some point in time? Well, this is what you should do. And is it a good thing to get married if one of you is going to be stressed out about this? So that's obviously the first thing to do. Second thing is obviously to sit down with your spouse, show them the pros and cons of the way things used to be and the way things are now, and what you can do to get through this, because that's also really important. The third option is to find somebody else who's been through the stresses you've been through, who has another couple who's basically kind of had the same entrepreneur challenges and done some of the same fighting and had some of the same disagreements you are, and see if your spouse can talk to the other spouse who was on the negative side or who was on the naysaying side to see, what happened, how'd you get through this, things like that. And then the fourth or fifth options are either to, stop going into business for yourself or to stop the relationship. And stopping the relationship is the absolute last one. But it's, a personal balance as to, which one is more important to you. And you think that I would be very much, rah, marriage is always the most important thing to you. And it is important. Keeping your marriage together is a very important thing. But at the same time, your mental sanity and your dreams and your hopes and your desires are also very important, and you can't push those down. You can't. Sometimes you have things where, this is a cool idea and I'd like to try this, and if it doesn't work out, whatever. And then sometimes you run into something which kind of digs into your soul and will not leave. You've decided that, oh, this is what I'm going to do. This is part of my life now. I am not going to give this up. This is what I'm going to do until the day I die. It's who I am. And when something like that grabs a hold of your heart and your brain, you have to make some very important decisions, sometimes some very life-altering decisions, to figure out, what you're going to do. And I wish I had the answers to all that. If I was, I would be a $2 million a year relationship counselor. And I am not a $2 million a year relationship counselor for several reasons. So anyways, as always, please private message me your questions. Do me a favor also, like this video, drop some hearts on top of it, share this video. I'll be getting this up on, obviously, Facebook afterwards, in addition to putting it up on YouTube. It'll be a blog post there also, and I'll be turning this over into a Stop Doing Nothing podcast, which reminds me, Stop Doing Nothing podcast, when I do publish these episodes, is now available on Spotify. So if you are a Spotify listener, go over to Spotify, search for my name, Allmond, or search for Stop Doing Nothing, and you're going to find my face up there and the Stop Doing Nothing logo over in Spotify. So now you can listen to me on the go, on the phone. In addition to, we're also in iTunes, and we're also in the Google Play Store under a podcast. As always, thank you for watching. Shoot me your questions via private message on the Facebook page or to my personal profile, or you can always just text me questions. Text the questions to 405-251-2022. You text me any of those questions, they come right to my cell phone via a special app. It'll be anonymous. You can leave me your name if you want. Obviously, as you can tell, I won't use your name in the broadcast, but your ideas are what drive me and help me kind of think about these things, think these things through before I get on camera and talk about them. As always, thank you very much for watching. You didn't wash, you watched. Thank you very much for watching. If you're in Oklahoma like I am, stay warm. The tips of my fingers now are a little bit cold, and until next week, when I will do a live stream next Thursday, take care and keep that entrepreneurship dream alive. Oh, and stop doing nothing.